everybody. Today I am going to do a simple video of how to make gravity swirl beads. So this is basically just letting the glass flow and creating a twisted pattern in your beads. So the first bead I am going to start with is just a simple round bead, and it has one gravity swirl in the center. So all the glass flows to the center like in a V pattern, as you see there. So here's just a sped up video of me just making a round or barrel shaped bead. I usually like to start with barrels because it's easier to put stripings all the way across evenly and the same size. So I usually start with a barrel. It's just my preference. But however you want to start your beads. So this is just sped up as I'm shaping. And I have just a black base. Both of these beads are made with a black base with a encased purple stringer and then a sky blue plain stringer. So this is the purple stringer, and it's just a light purple with a dark transparent purple over it. And I'm just going to put a bunch of stripes around the bead from side to side, mandrel end to mandrel end. And you could put as many or as few as you want. It doesn't matter. You can also do this, it doesn't have to be stripes. It can be with dots or, you know, whatever kind of pattern you want to put on here. And I'm just going to try to taper out the ends a little bit here. And I pull off the first section with my tweezers, but then I use that piece of glass that I'm holding the tweezers with to actually grab the other ends of glass. So there's various ways you can do this, just to taper them down so they reach the hole there a little closer on either side. And this is another way you can do it. And I'm sorry my hand gets in the way, but you can actually use your stringer and actually taper those ends down with your stringer you were using to put them on with. And so I'm showing you that in this case also. And so I'm just trying to get them even because they kind of ball up on the ends, and pull them closer to the holes on either side. So I have all the purple put on, and now I have a light sky blue stringer, just a plain sky blue. It's not encased or anything. And I'm going to just put stripes of the blue in between. And I sped this up just so you don't have to watch all of it. And I'm going to do the same thing with the blue. I'm going to pull out the ends, and in this point I was using my razor blade tool, which I might do a little more here, I'm not sure, to actually push the ends down a little bit. But now I am shaping, and I'm getting back to that barrel shape again. This will be round in the end, but I'm just starting with a barrel. And as you can see, there's the stripes of purple, black, blue, black, purple, black, etc. And I guess I'm going to give you another shot. I didn't realize I did that, maybe just to get better lighting. And so now we're going to start the gravity part. And I really wish these videos would show better. I do have a dynamium filter on my camera, but it's just basically from glass lenses. So it's not really a camera filter, and it might be better if it was, I'm not sure. But you can't really see any detail in the bead. But basically, I want to heat the surface super hot. It doesn't have to be the bead all the way through. So my bead is like being skimmed on the top of the flame. I don't have my whole bead in the flame. Just like the first, I don't know, eighth of an inch or so is in the flame. And I'm just turning very slowly. And eventually you'll see the glass start to move along the surface. And then you just turn very slowly, slower than the glass is flowing. And as you rotate slower than usual, you will see the glass start to pull itself around the bead. And since I'm heating right in the center of the bead, the glass is going to actually flow towards the center and spiral around and make a point at the center and make this like V shape, because the center is what's going to be falling down the most. It's going to be the most molten. And the sides are cooler and they are going to stay less movable, if that makes sense. And so basically, once you have as much twist or swirl as you want in your bead, then you just stop. And I'm putting it back into a barrel shape just to define the holes, to make sure my holes are nice and dimpled. And then I will shape it into a round bead from there. But it got a little wonky from, heating that and swirling that, but you could see there's a swirl in there now. And now I'm just going to put it back in the flame to reshape and just get it nice and round again. So I usually start with a barrel. It's the easiest way for me to make sure the bead is evenly around the mandrel. It's like the same size, same thickness all around. And then I try to shape from there. So now I'm rounding it out a little bit. And make sure you keep turning when you're out of the flame. You want to keep rotating it, because if you stop rotating, it's still movable for a while. And so just keep rotating until you lose the glow and it stops moving. But here is that bead. If I could get it to focus, I'll put it in my hand to try to get it to focus a little bit better. And that is that swirl. And now I'm going to show you a two-part swirl. So this is actually swirling two different sections of a bead, and you don't have to just do two swirls. You can do more. You can have a really long bead and you can swirl it back and forth or whatever direction you want to swirl it several times. And if you want to be more precise, turn your torch flame down so you have more of a pinpoint flame. And you can do multiple swirls on a bead, but I was just doing this example just to show you that you can do different swirls on different sections of a longer bead and have them go in different directions. And so I'm just building up this bead, so I have this part of the video sped up. I always make sure I put extra on the ends so I have nice tapered ends. But I'm just trying to build up this bead here. And I'm going to make a nice long barrel with tapered ends for this bead. And I'm going to use, this is a black base bead again, and I'm going to use the same purple and the same blue as I did on the last one. So I'm just melting it all in and I'm going to shape it. As you see, my beads always start out really crooked and wonky. It's just the way I roll. I know some people are really precise and try to layer their glass on really nicely from the get-go, and I really don't care. I just like throw it on there. I'll shape it afterwards. I'll worry about the shape after. I just want to get the amount of glass I need on the mandrel. And then I'll shape. So it's whatever way you like to do it. It really doesn't matter. So I'm going to shape the other side a little bit now. And this doesn't have to be totally precise. You want your basic shape down before you start putting your stripes or dots or whatever you're going to swirl. You want to have your basic shape down before you start striping, but it doesn't have to be perfect. So now I'm going to put the stripes on, just like I did last time. And I have this video sped up a little bit too, not quite as fast as the melting part, but it is sped up also, just so you don't have to see it all. Again, it's basically the same thing as I did on the round bead or the stubby barrel. So this time I'm only doing 3 stripes of purple. So 3 stripes each. So it's however far apart you want them or close you want them. It's all up to you. And now I'm going to put the blue in between. The blue's a little skinnier than the purple, but that's okay. And here's my pushing it down with my razor tool. So I'm just trying to push down those points with a razor tool. So you can do that too if they're not big dollopy ends like I had on the rounder bead. I just need to push them down a little bit. I really don't have to remove any glass. So that's all I was doing there. And so I'm just going to melt all these in. You want to have all your elements, whether they're stripes or dots or what have you, you want them all kind of melted in. Oh, I did find I did have one or two fatter sections, so I'm just using a little nub of a rod there to pull out the extra glass on the end. And I'll continue melting. So you want these all fairly melted in before you start twisting. And so I'm just kind of melting it and redefining the shape still a little bit, even though it will distort when I start to heat it and swirl it. The bead will distort a little bit. And so there's my stripes on the black bead. And now just to swirl one section, I'm only going to heat that one section. So I'm just focusing my heat on one side of the bead, and I'm towards the end of the bead, but not at the very end. And if I was at the very end of the bead, I would actually have swirled it all the way to the hole of the bead. But I was a little bit in from the end, and so I swirled it a little bit inward, so it kind of made a little S curve, which you will see in my swirl. So if I did focus it all the way towards the end of my bead hole there, it would have swirled all that glass all the way around in a continuous swirl. So it's however you want to swirl it and where you want to place your swirls. So when I'm happy with how much swirl I have, I just wanted a little bit. I just wanted it to pull down a little bit. Then you can stop, and like I'm shaping up the end a little bit more. And so I have this little S curve in the end. And see, if I was at the very end, to the very outside edge, I would have swirled that all the way around also. But I was a little inward. And as you can see, here's where I'm focusing on the other side. It's also a little inward. And I switched hands, and I'm focusing the heat on that bead surface, and I have the bead above the flame, just like in the last one. It's not totally in the flame, because you just want to focus on the surface, not the glass that's all the way against the mandrel. And so I'm twisting basically in the opposite direction because I switched hands. So I'm basically rolling back away from me. And so it's basically swirling in the same direction in the center. It's continuing the swirl, if that makes sense. And then you just have the ends, which actually go in the opposite direction, because I didn't swirl the end part. I was inside a little bit. So basically you can do multiple swirls on the same bead and just focus with a smaller flame. or just one swirl, however you want to do it. And so here's the swirls on that bead. And I'm going to put this back in the flame and finish shaping it because it wasn't so perfect. But then I'll put it in the kiln. And that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.